All right, that's the sign I was looking for. So it is 7 o'clock on the nose, and I'll call this meeting to order. Leslie, would you take roll, please?
Andy Hitchcock.
Here.
John Buda.
Here.
Lindsay Self.
Here.
Martin O'Toole.
Here.
Cindy Potato.
Here.
All right. First thing on the agenda, review of the meeting minutes from February 19th. Did everyone have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
questions, concerns, additions, deletions, et cetera, et cetera?
Nope.
All right. Well, I would make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 19th as is. Can I get a second?
Second.
Leslie?
Andy Hitchcock.
Yes?
John Buda.
Abstain.
Okay, Lindsay Self.
Yes.
Marty O'Toole.
Yes.
Cindy Potato.
Yes.
All right, well, the tough business is out of the way today. That brings us to BZA case number 2506. Before we do that, would you, Bridie, please swear in anyone who's going to give testimony?
Whoever's going to testify, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. So for the board's sake, we do have somewhat of an unusual application in front of us. We tend to deal more with sheds being in the wrong place and wayward fences and whatnot. But we have in front of us a case tonight about parking. And just for your awareness, it is the same set of criteria that we would use to judge this application as anything else that comes in front of us. So just use that as your basis for judgment. In front of us is Mr. Mark Derry, I believe, owner of property at 576 Industrial Parkway. We are looking to discuss an area variance of 22 parking spaces for the business and the tenants. So I'm going to pause there. Mr. Derry, you have things you would like to share with us. We've read the application and are generally familiar, but if there's anything you'd like to fill us in on, that would be great.
Not really, like you said, just looking for a variance for 22 spaces, if that's what's necessary, if that's what you deem necessary. I don't know if you could read that dotted line, but we do have 165 feet of trees, not really brush, to add spaces, so that's not a problem. Just, I suppose, up to you all.
And if I can interrupt you for a moment, when you said there's additional space for extra parking spaces behind 1 through 7 or?
That way.
Okay, so on the left-hand side of the screen.
Yes, sir. 1 through 7.
Okay, very good. I'm sure this board will have a handful of questions for you. You're welcome to
Fire away.
offer your thoughts as we go. Just a couple questions, I guess more for the board's sake. Dave, can you confirm what zoning we are in?
B1I1.
B1A1. Okay. And according to that, we do have a handful of requirements for parking, depending on the type of business that is there, as well as the square footage. Dave, do you have any sort of context or background on how those criteria were arrived at? I assume it's not arbitrary, but if you've got color commentary, that would be great.
It was back quite a while, quite a ways back. At the time, a lot of that area was warehouse, storage and things like that. And he started bringing offices and, retail sales in there, which is good, but, and that's how it developed. And our parking regulations are a little stricter for personal services where you're selling something on it compared to an office.
Okay. And Mr. Derry, can you confirm, as I'm looking at the application, I think it's the notes in the bottom that talk about the square feet. So just that's accurate, reasonably accurate with.
Reasonably accurate according to what I know the code is, yes.
Okay. So as far as the square footage of each of those individual units,
Yes.
I looked online and saw the sketch of the building, but there's a second floor on part of it as well.
Second floor on both wings.
Okay.
Both ends of the building.
Okay, I was doing the math, and according to the sketch online, it seemed a little bit bigger.
Yes, I can.
That's perfect. And And on your application, it says that we have a 22 spot variance needed, and there was a plan for 50. And I just want to make sure I understand, is that correct? Make sure that this board has the appropriate information.
Applying for 50 total or 50 more?
Let's see, this says 33 existing parking spaces and proposal for 50.
55.
Okay, so the application says 50,
Oh,
and that's okay, I'm just,
I didn't fill that out.
okay. I guess what I was driving at was that your proposal, that you were planning to add 17 to get to 50?
I don't have a proposal. When I spoke to Dave, this meeting, I thought it was gonna be about, are we doing business as usual? Is that what the variance is for? Because you came by, we met, we're doing pretty good. The 9:30 hour is probably to capacity. But after that, we're gone. The guys upstairs come in, they've got 4 cars, but it's pretty good after 9:30. I'd say maybe 10. But if the variance is, I have to put parking in, totally fine. It's for 22 more spots,
Okay,
total of 55.
got it. Can you give us some color commentary on the other businesses in the building?
Yeah, what they do.
What they do,
Sure. So we're all the way to the left, we have the 2,400 square feet, all the way to the left, that big block there.
Mhm.
We're obviously a personal training gym, group fitness. Right above us, they have the same square footage, it's called iDevice Wholesale. They just fix things, everything iDevice. Earbuds, laptops, cell phones, they've got lots of inventory in there, it's pretty remarkable. Right next to us in that little strip is still ours, so that's 3,200 square feet total for us.
Okay.
That's just our entryway, little bar area, and then 2 offices behind it. Right next to us is Ortho Sport. They are, they do some fitness training, but their bread and butter is physical therapy.
Right.
Right next to them, all the way to the right, is Hawaiian Guy Barbecue. That's kind of obvious. And above them is, nobody's there, but iDevice still rents that out from us. They thought they were gonna need that space, but nobody's up there.
okay. So the building is a mix of gym,
Yeah,
catering, restaurant, and
And-
some sort of iPhone fixing
Yep.
business. Okay. You said your business generally is busy until about 9:30 or so. How would you describe the rest of the flow throughout the day?
rest of the flow throughout the day, like I said, our last class of the morning is 8:30 to 9:30. By 9:45, all of our folks are gone except me. I stay, clean up, set up for the night class. iDevice, they roll in around 9 or 9:30. Like I said, they take 33, 32, 31, and 30. That's pretty much it. They might take one spot of 1 through 7, but there's only 4 guys up there, maybe 5.
Okay.
Only 4 or 5 people. And the rest of the day is pretty good. Now, Ortho Sport, they're running a great business. They take up, throughout the day, I would say at the most 3/4 of 8 through 25 there. And we've instructed everybody from Ortho Sport and us to park through 1 through 7 just to get us out of the way. And I say park like human beings, not 7 feet away from each other.
Right.
Park like a regular parking spot. We used to have lines, the former owner painted lines from 8 through 25, and I think 26 through 29, they were too small. They were too small individually, and those lines are almost gone, so we're prepared to paint more lines there. We probably need to redo the parking lot, quite honestly. So if we're doing that, I have a call into, he called me back today, I forget the company. But they patched a couple holes in our parking lot, so they're gonna come out and quote that. No matter if we have to add parking out, they're gonna quote our existing lot.
Okay.
But it runs pretty smoothly after 9:45 and 10 o'clock.
Okay. As far as Hawaiian Guys, is that really just a catering business? Do they have takeout? Do they have dine-in?
No dining.
Okay.
It's not that kind of place. I think that you might affirm or not. I think they just got approved by you all for takeout Monday through Wednesday?
Mm-mm.
No?
No.
Oh, yeah?
It wouldn't have been this board, probably planning commission would be my guess.
Because I received a text from them.
Okay.
I thought it said Monday through Wednesday from 11 to 1 or 11 to 12 to 3, something like that.
Okay.
I can look for the text if you'd like.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Just,
They got 2 cars.
okay. I guess what I'm driving at is the bulk of the parking situation is early in the morning and related to your business, the living lean.
I would say living lean and Norfolk Sport.
Okay.
Take up the bulk from, 7:30 to 9:30.
Okay. All right. I'm sure.
Excuse me, just to let you know,
Yeah.
it's never been a problem with us or Norfolk Sport.
Okay. I'm sure I will have other questions. I'm going to pause and invite other members of the board to ask questions of you. So, John, go ahead.
I don't want to ask proprietary information about your business, but if you're willing to share, can you tell us how long your business has been there and what your trend is with regards to the number of customers that you're having?
Here in this location for about 15 years, we rented for 8, bought it 7 years ago. And we hold steady at about 110 members. Our attrition is very low. We're not like a public gym who, churn and burn. January is really high. We don't get any of that. Our numbers are pretty steady. Obviously, we're always marketing for more, but it's a really hard business with 35 gyms from Sullivan, Bainbridge, and Chagrin. So it's difficult to get more.
Where I'm going with it is how consistent is the consumption of the spaces in that up to 9:30
It's
a.m.?
pretty consistent. I'll tell you at 5:45 class, we have between 18 and 22 people coming in. 7 o'clock, we have between 7 and 11 or 12 coming in. And 8:30, we have between 10 and 15.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you own the whole building,
Yes, sir.
so Hawaiian Guys is your tenant?
Yes.
And can you give us an idea of what you are aware of their operation is going to be from a timing of the day, so to speak, or number of days of the week, or anything along those?
As far as the parking goes, or just in general?
I guess it all relates to the parking.
Okay. I can tell you, they're there all the time. They're hard workers. They're always cooking for events and for stock, which I enjoy personally. But they don't, to my knowledge, they don't have any employees. So if both of them are there, they drive separately because one has to run out and do a catering event or something. So there's no more than 2 cars between 26 and 29 for them.
Okay,
We can reserve those for them, but
regarding potential takeout business.
yes.
Are you aware of, and what would be the estimated hours that the takeout would be?
From what they told me, they were gunning for 11 to 1, but the text I got, I think it said from 11 to 3. Even those hours, we're gone.
Right.
We're not even there.
Okay.
And iDevice, like I said, they have 4 cars, and Ortho Sport, I think their employee total per day is, I think, 6 cars. And, obviously, I can't really speak to how many clients they have coming in.
Sure.
But 2 for Hawaiian Guy, maybe 15 for Ortho Sport, I would say. Practically 0 for us, and about 5 for iDevice.
Okay. Maybe my last question.
Sure.
I noticed that spots 22 through 24-ish say reserved parking or something along those lines.
Ortho Sport asked me if they can reserve those for their older folks who have a hard time getting on. They might get a walker or a cane or something like that. And I said, no problem, go ahead and do that. So I think it took 3 or 4 spots, no more than 4. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure if everyone adheres to that in their business. That's something you have to ask them. But that those are strictly for them.
Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Sure.
Those are all my questions at this time.
I'm here all day.
Is the concern with adding more spots just that you would have to clear that land behind the building?
Concern for me,
Yeah,
that's not a concern, the money is a concern. Of course,
Right.
It's gonna be quite substantial, but we'll do it if we're required to do it.
do you know how much it'll cost for you to do that?
I do not know, I could report back in probably a week's time, because like I said, the guy just coming back today.
That's fine.
So I'll have him out and see what he says.
It's okay. When you purchased the property 8 years ago, were you aware of the zoning restriction?
No. When I purchased the spot, at that time, we had the majority of the first floor. And nobody was upstairs, and nobody was in front. So it wasn't a concern at that time whatsoever. I think this all came about when the people at 477 started to, I guess, complain. So, they got to come to me and say, hey, look, we got this zoning restriction and how many cars you need per square footage. So I learned about that a few months back.
I have a question, I gotta remember what it is, because so many of them have been asked. Oh, in the evening, I had driven by, came over like at 6:30 in the evening or whatever. Every spot was completely filled down that whole side.
At 6:30?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's probably mostly Ortho Sport. We do have a class at 6:30.
Okay,
Probably 10 cars at 6:30. We have between as little as 4 and as many as 10.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
10
there were-
cars from us, plus a trainer, that's 11. And if Ortho Sport is busy at that time, I wouldn't suspect that they would be that busy, but I'm not there but one night at 6:30.
okay. Well, I was just curious, because you did have a class going on, and then when I went down to see,
Yeah.
and I was wondering, because that was all full, I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, if that's all you, then
Yeah.
that's quite a bit.
It wasn't all,
spaces.
no.
Okay, it's
And
part
when
of
people
that.
parked civilly,
Yes,
or,
Yeah. they were civil. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We're
You
really
said-
trying to have everyone park nicely.
You said 477 complained.
Somebody from that building, yes.
Is that the building attached to CrossFit?
Yes.
Have they said anything to us? Have they submitted any statements or anything?
Sorry, let me take that back. Not necessarily in support of or in opposition to this plan.
Sure,
But
but
they
have,
submitted their own parking plan to the planning commission and it was approved.
okay, so they'll be adding spots.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they actually added spots, but they're definitely going to be striping the spots that meet the
Yes.
zoning code with respect to the uses and the square footage that's in that building.
Got it.
That makes sense.
I happen to be friends with the guy who runs that building, and we're always in communication. And he did say that, I think they have plenty of concrete space to get their 77 requirements, I think they need, 71. Right around
But they need it.
Right around 70. But this all came to light because of that business and Hawaiian guy.
Sure.
The Hawaiian guy wanted to open for lunch takeout. They then gave
Sure.
you guys.
Sure.
So and that's why we're here today.
I have a question, and I don't know who this is directed to, but so this has been the zoning code for a substantial period of time. Was this building added on to? How are we sitting here with less spots than are required per square footage in the building? Like, was the building added on to later?
The zoning book, the way it reads with different occupancies,
Got
somewhat
it.
complicated. And I wanted to comment on that too, if I could. The drawing that was sent in today, the applicant had down iDevice, 4,000 square feet office. They're selling retail, it's not office. It's personal services.
Okay.
So we're gonna change the calculation on that to 20 parking places instead of 12.
So I think this is where it gets interesting. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead.
I'm not clear on what you're talking about, Dave. I don't know about
Okay,
what you're
here's
talking
the-
about the drawing. I don't know what you're talking about, 12 spots. Okay, I have that, all right.
So if you look at iDevice, right, it has 4,000 square feet and it's listed as office. And if you look in our code, right, the uses with respect to office are different than retail and personal service. I think if you look at our definition of personal service, it does include like,
Retail sales.
yeah, and repair of like electronic devices, right, for consumer use.
So even repair, even though they don't have customers coming there. Because they don't.
I believe so, it literally said repair services such as shoe, furniture, household appliances, and electronics repair for consumer-oriented products is considered a personal service. Now, do they maybe have office too? I don't know, but I would think that you would probably
It's
go
one
with
big
higher intensive, use.
Right. And
Right?
Lindsay, to your question, over the course of, it looks like the building's been there 50 years.
I think it was built in 71, and to your
Okay.
point, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
It was added on to, our spot was added on to in 1995.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the building use has probably changed significantly over the years, gone through various iterations, so
Yeah. It was-
how we arrived at the parking plan, it makes sense that
It
it's
was one business at that time.
evolved. Okay. Lindsay, did you have other questions at the moment?
Yeah,
Wasn't sure if you were finished.
no, not yet. I'm good.
Okay. Pondering. Marty?
Yeah, this has been really helpful dialogue. I had a whole bunch of questions in my pocket about how we got where we are, but I think I'm tracking properly. So we're here today because somebody filed a complaint that caused for this to be surfaced for review. And so I'm looking at the map of the grounds there. And so who complained and what did they complain about?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you or Dave or we're here because somebody felt like that where this all has arrived over time and changes and use and parking lots, this whole thing has arrived where it's arrived. And prior to somebody causing us to have this conversation,
I think you're very transparent in that answer from what I know.
yeah, so my question is like, who is not happy with the way it's working?
So, right, if you're looking at the building, it's divided in half by office space. If you're looking at the building, the people, I'm not sure what the name of the business is, because there's two people in there, the man and wife. He's a DO, she's a massage therapist. She got wind, because the Hawaiian guy came here, I'm not sure if it was this meeting, but came here, applied for a variance to do takeout from the other one. She did not like that because you can't see it, but right where that first arrow is on the right,
Mm-hmm.
that's that line to the left is the front of their building. They have, I think, 6 spots,
Yeah.
maybe 8, 6, 8. It's either 3 with a walkway and then 3 or 4. I
Something
don't
like
really remember, but she was worried that people are gonna come up Industrial Parkway, take a right, and park right in her parking spot, which I don't know why they would do that when we're a building away. So, she
Got it.
was very adamant that she didn't want that to happen. I was adamant that if that did happen, you just wander over, talk to me, talk to the Hawaiian guy and say, how can we resolve this problem? You can do anything. But that didn't happen, and here we are.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at the satellite image here. Okay, got it. So not disrespecting the opinions and concerns of the people who have the building next door. There's nobody else in the community that is being inconvenienced by the current state of affairs, to our knowledge collectively. And we are here because one person is anticipating a possible conflict down the road.
Yes, sir.
Is why we're here. That's what brings us here today.
And I don't think we're wrong anyone in the community because we're the last building in that complex.
Got
it. To that side of us is the playground for teenagers.
But if I can just interject for just 1 second, I mean, yes, we are here, that's the impetus, but truly, we are not in compliance with the code.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
And if I may, it feels to me like this is one of those cases where, and I'm not being interpretive, I'm just trying to say what I think I understand. That this is one of those cases where perhaps there's no overt intent fault of anybody. The property has arrived through a set of individual decisions at the point where it's out of compliance, right? And if I'm understanding correctly also, the fact that iDevice falls by virtue of their business code into a certain zoning requirement, that's probably legally accurate, but it may not be perfectly representative of what they do for a living and how that would incur parking. Is that, am I interpreting too far there? Or am I interpreting okay?
No, you might be right, but yeah, I think you can maybe say the same thing with,
Hawaiian
yeah, quite frankly, Hawaiian guys, right? Because they're actually a catering business, which is not at all permitted use. It's also not a conditional use in this district. It was allowed by planning commission as like a restaurant. But it's not a restaurant, they don't have sit-in. And also just, and I get it, but truly, a planning commission has not been approved yet with respect to carry out, so please understand that that's not a thing. But, so that's a good question, because some of these definitions kind of morph, right? I mean, I would assume that Orthosport also has offices in addition to the personal services, right? They're professional, they might be
Sure, right.
professionals, right?
Right.
So
Sure,
that's where
that's right, that's
there's
right,
that
that's
gray
right.
area.
That's right, there's a lot of grade going on here, right?
Exactly.
And ultimately, one has to put a pin in it and stop the grade and say it's either this or it's that, there's an apple or orange, right? But in truth, in the real world, there's a lot of grade going on over there. And so the crux of this right now, if I can state it, is that we have this property that's arrived from the state, out of zoning through 50 years of changes and evolutions, and clients and leasing renters there, tenants coming and going. And because the people who have the property next door are proactively concerned that their lots might be abused, they're calling all this to a head. Okay, I understand.
So, just so you know what I'm going to be rambling about in a moment, there's factors that we're supposed to weigh and consider when we're thinking about whether or not a variance is reasonable. And when I look through those, whether a property will still have a reasonable return on investment, I'm sure gyms do well. I'm sure sometimes they don't do well, and you're always looking for business, right? So, I think investing substantial financial resources into parking, I'm sure that that probably breaks even. Whether the variance is substantial, I would argue it's not substantial considering it's sat like this for all these years. The character of the neighborhood, I mean, those are all gyms and everyone's looking for parking all the time back there. I think that's.
I think we have 5 gyms or 6 gyms in that park.
I go to the gym next door. I'm very sorry. Don't hold it against me, but I will say with that, so 477, the entrance to their facility is on the other side. The entrance to their facility is next to CrossFit. So they have 6 spots there, but there are still spots across the parking lot as well.
Yeah, their parking lot is a little wonky also.
It is.
So they've got parking basically everywhere, but the majority of it is in the back, as you know.
Yeah. So when we look at whether or not an adjoining property would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance, considering there's other parking over there, I don't think that they would suffer a substantial detriment considering they've been in business and haven't been impacted by the parking. You did not purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. And when we talk about another factor to consider is the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement. When we're talking about square footage of a facility, I think we're assuming the bigger the facility, the more people that are in there. I don't think that that's necessarily true in that area. Gyms are large so that people have lots of space. So I'm not sure that when this zoning code was written, that was what was being considered. I'm not sure that was the spirit behind this. So for those reasons, I think that the variance would be reasonable based on the code.
May I ask one question, please?
Go ahead, Mark.
And I don't know if this is a Bridie question or a Dave question. Respectfully, I don't think it's a Mr. Gary question. And so the decision we're making right now is based on the current use of the property. And so iDevice is in there doing what they do, and Orthosport is in there, and Living Lane is in there. And so if one was to put approve a variance based on the current state of affairs, and then things continue to evolve, and businesses go in there, hopefully for reasons of prosperity and investment, would this property always have benefit of this variance? Or would it be appropriate at some point to consider rescinding the variance based on the evolving use of the property? Is this a permanent thing?
normally it is permanent, it runs with the land, but, because the uses could change, I would think that maybe the board would want to consider making it a condition that it's based on the current uses that are on this plan. And again, when I say uses, I mean office, personal service. I'm not saying necessarily, like, for instance, if Orthosport changes to something else, but it's
Sure,
also
right, yeah,
personal
right.
services, you would think that the
Sure.
same, calculation would apply.
Sure, that's good, thank you.
Same square.
Yeah, that was going to be my question there, Marty. If it turns out that 10 years in the future, this becomes a restaurant,
Right.
I'm assuming planning commission would address some of the situation, but what I would hate is for it to be so crazily out of scope for something that we could not have foreseen or planned, yet a new business owner says, it's not my problem. Maybe it's the wording of the resolution that helps with that.
I also think, I'm sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting you, John.
John, go ahead.
Well, along the theme of the discussion we're just having or hearing, that's where I'm coming from in my mind is current state, potential future state. And everything seems to be relatively smooth and fit, maybe just fit in the current state, but we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. If we don't have to have another trees ripped down and parking lot put in for no reason whatsoever, that's good with me. At the same time, we don't know, is it 477 or 777? 477. It's up for lease? I believe there's a big sign out for whatever.
There's one spot.
Okay, well, we don't know what the future's gonna even be for that business. Could be smaller, could be bigger, don't know. So what's been discussed and mentioned here has also been running through my mind is there's current state and future state. Regarding future state, I like what I'm hearing regarding putting in, if we can, any kind of caveat or condition regarding changes in the business that would perhaps require additional parking. But also, just from a proprietor's standpoint, even if the proprietor changes, you sell the business, somebody else comes in, they need more parking. Even if it's 33 required, 55 required, but 33 available, they could always, in the future, under a business decision, decide to make more parking. So anyway, those are just a couple of the points that
And I think business owners are generally going to want parking for their customers.
Yep.
Like, I think if a business comes in and their customers can't come because they don't have parking, they're going to do something about it.
And I might as well mention now, if it's appropriate to include something about painting lines to clarify where the 33 spots are, that would be favorable.
That's a good idea.
Based on the square footage, it looks like what you've provided us, 11,800 square feet with all the businesses currently in the building. If we were to take that as, if in the future it is all office space, that would require 40 parking spaces. If this was all retail and personal service, you would be required to have about 59. So the request in front of us is toward the high end, but I guess what I'm saying is as the building evolves in the future, it doesn't seem like the problem could be much worse than what it is today. I think we're kind of at the extreme end of the requirement based on the current occupancy of the businesses in the building. So, other comments or questions that the board has? All right. Mr. Derry, anything else that you'd like to share, ask, provide?
I suppose it depends on the gist of the conversation. What I'm hearing is we may not have to put in parking. I'm not sure. Okay. Orthosport is, I'm shooting myself in the foot in my hot note. They are a growing business. They're doing very well. Great guys. They do a great job. if we needed to put more in, because even I say, okay, we have to do something. Do I come back here and apply for that variance to put more in?
If you received a variance tonight, it would be for what you submitted. So basically saying you have 30, the minimum number of parking spaces would be 33. If you want to add more to it, that would be fine. Obviously, you'd have to make sure that it meets whatever
Of course.
other issues.
Yes.
But no, you would not need to reapply for a variance from us.
Okay.
If we said, no, you need 50 or 55 spaces and you don't meet that, then it's up to you to start adding on until you get there.
Understand.
Along those lines, I guess I did have one final question. You said the potential to add more spaces is to the left of this screen behind spaces 1 through 7.
Mhm.
How many spaces do you think you can reasonably add based on the space available?
The honest answer to that question is I don't know, but our lots, if you still have that up, our lot goes right back to 477s, and they're all the way, they're pushing the boundary everywhere.
Boy, there's a lot of woods behind this building.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
park.
lot.
That's part.
I see.
I believe it's park, so we have 1.08 acres, I think they have about the same.
Oh, okay.
I walked it off, our
Yeah, yeah.
property goes right to where their
To where there's
parking lot ends. And their building goes further back than ours.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fairly substantial space.
Okay.
I'm a nature guy. I don't want to take down any more trees than I have to. Most of the space that we would take, there might be a couple trees like this, but it's mostly brush. to be honest. So I would say we could easily get 20 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem.
If I may just help the dialogue, because I'm looking at this, behind that other building, there's a great big cleared area. Would it cleared, I'm guessing, might be,
Behind ours?
no, behind the building next door, there's a big cleared
That's
area.
a parking lot.
That's
Is that right? Yeah, so
If
there's,
there are no trees, yeah.
and everybody's welcome to look at this if they want, but there's a bunch of room back there.
Yeah.
Everybody else is welcome to look at the image, but there's a bunch of room back there.
Candidly, that space is normally used for outdoor workout. I mean, there's not that many cars back in this area.
Most everybody parks up front.
That's probably why 477's mad. So,
And it's not the greatest parking lot, it's kind of falling apart, but
yeah,
there is the space, they have the space.
But if that cleared area is just indicative of where the lot lines might be,
sure.
it just shows where the lot lines might be.
I do think maintaining the essential, the essential character of the neighborhood is keeping more trees. People don't want to look, they don't want to see back there. They don't want to see big buildings like that.
And if you see, there are neighborhoods, maybe a couple hundred yards away from us. I've never really measured, but there's Pheasant Run,
Mhm.
which is like a high school, that's even beyond the St. Joe's playground area, which is a
Right.
couple hundred at least yards. So, we're not in clear view of the neighborhood.
In fact, if it would help the dialogue, if it's beneficial and help the dialogue, I'm sure we can just call Google Maps up and shoot it on the wall there, because it actually does show the lot lines. And so if that's valuable, I'm sure we can get up there in 2 minutes, but.
In
Maybe
the
it's your
discussion we had previously about the barbecue folks, part of that discussion in allowing them to have the truck that I defined as not a truck was that there were trees there.
Right.
And that blocked both the view and potential smoke. So, we have depended on trees remaining there and making other choices.
Yes, right.
But their stuff is all in the front, that their smoker and everything is completely in the front, so those trees would not be removed. Their truck is actually parked in the back behind you.
Typically, sometimes they park up front if they're having an event and they have
Right.
loaded, things like that, but typically it's in the back.
But they cook basically in the front, where where their smokers are and all that stuff are right in the front by the parking lot.
They parked them in the back, they didn't want that to be an eyesore.
Yeah, no, I just wondered if, I just wondered if that was gonna continue, so that would be one of your parking spaces back in the back would be their truck. Okay, that's clear.
Do we need to?
All right, so while technical support works on getting the map up there, I guess hearing no other questions or conversation, I would like to make a motion. Yeah,
If I could
give.
just make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
We've got to change that 55 to 63 on the recorded.
So the
parking.
variance will be more.
Yes.
So Dave, can you walk us through the math? Doing the math, I arrived at 55.8 places. And that's with what you had submitted to us.
Yeah.
I rounded down.
And I did my best, there's some office space, most of the building, quite honestly, it's not office space.
Right.
If you're looking at the front of the building, it's 60 feet wide, 30 feet of that to the left, and 28 feet back, however many square footage that is.
Right.
800, maybe 700, is office space. That's for Hawaiian guy.
Okay,
The right half and back room
Yeah.
is their kitchens. Oracle Sport does have some office space. We have some. We've got a 20 by 20 office and then a 14 by 14 foot office, which I didn't even include in the numbers.
Right.
I didn't want to get that technical.
Okay.
It's a difference between the two spots, you know what I mean?
right.
So,
Well, Dave, how did you arrive at the number?
Well, he submitted the application here with the map, and everything was good until I was looking at it and I said iDevice as personal services. So we changed that iDevice upstairs to square footage for personal services.
From,
And that changes,
Office.
that adds 8 more parking places for that.
okay,
Just so, for the record, what we got.
okay,
All right, if I may, I'm having trouble getting the lot lines up here, but if you just look behind the second building there, you can see the big cleared area, which is consistent with the lot lines. And then yeah, sorry, take this here. So the lot lines literally show to be like
okay.
here on Google Maps, right? Yeah, that's how that reads, and that's how it's the same line with this end. How's that?
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, for clarity, you're suggesting 63 as the number of required parking spaces. All right, I just want to make sure I jot this down. All right. So the application that we have in front of us says 55. We will amend that to say 63 as the required number of parking spaces. Hearing no other conversation, I would make a motion to approve the following. For the property, for BZA case number 25-06 for the property located at 576 Industrial Parkway, I make a motion to approve an area variance of 30 parking spaces to bring the minimum number of parking spaces required to 33, subject to the parking lot being painted with proper lines and markings.
And contingent on the current uses.
And, thank you, and contingent on the current uses existing in the building.
Second.
Questions, discussion on the motion?
No.
All right. Leslie?
Candy Hitchcock?
Yes, and I just wanted to give my rationale. I think Lindsay had done a nice job of articulating a handful of things, but quite frankly, cutting down parking trees to solve a problem that may not really exist doesn't appeal to me. And I think as a business owner, if you have issues with parking, you can find ways to address those to satisfy your customers. Otherwise, you won't be in business. So,
John Buda?
Yes, and for what the chairperson has already said, and based on the current conditions seeming to meet what the needs are.
Lindsay Self?
Yes.
Marty O'Toole?
Yes.
Cindy Matajan?
Yes, based on the current conditions, yes.
wonderful. So, we've finished item number 1. Thank you for joining and presenting some information. We do appreciate
You
it.
don't have to put in parking spots.
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That brings us to old business. Do we have anything else in front of us tonight? Any new business?
Thank you. Good night.
No new business.
All right. With that, it is 7:44, and we'll call this meeting to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
Very good discussion.
Are we off YouTube?
No, not yet.
Stand by.